This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the CEO of Hannan Metals, Mr. Michael Hudson. Mike, how are you this morning?
Top of the world down under. Thanks, Gerardo.
It's great to have you back on. You've been very consistent in describing the San Martin project, projects, I should say, as basin scale and how important it is to establish and continue to discover the continuity and the consistency and the scale of the mineralization. And you had some news today that sure in the heck advances that to now 24 kilometers of strike at just Tabaloso's east. And these are extensions of the subcropping mineralized copper silver shale. That in itself would be fantastic if it weren't followed by the fact that that's only 3% of the total tenured area in the joint venture with Jogman. Can you provide some context on the news today?
You've done your reading well. You picked the highlights there, Gerardo. We've got a basin scale project and it extends over 120 kilometers with multiple trends within that strike. We've always said there's a hell of a lot of copper here after our first discoveries that look like they have context from the data from oil exploration that occurred through the 70s and 80s and 90s that we had available to us. Then we also said that our challenge here will be to determine the continuity of mineralization at a scale that makes it work from a mineral exploration and eventual mining point of view. So that's always been our aim, and to find grades that, of course, will work within these pancake horizons. And we're talking probably north of 2% copper we need beyond to work. And this data that came out today, these data are soil samples that extend beyond known outcrops, and outcrops are only about 1% or less of the area. This is thick jungle, and we've got a technique where we're soil sampling, which is a very old and tried and true technique in mineral exploration, but we're doing it here with a lot more efficiency. We're using 3 handheld XRF analyzers in the field, so we can directly detect where we have anomalies. Then we're taking the samples back from the field and then processing them like a little mini laboratory to get consistency and correct data. But we're getting turnaround within a day or two, or immediately at site, but then a day or two by our own teams processing those samples. So we can go into areas that are tough and make decisions in the field and then turn them around and infill. And that's working a treat. That should be not discounted in terms of the methodology. And in fact, Olympus, who make these machines, have had Lars Dahlenborg, our president, just recently record a video, a promo essentially for their technology to demonstrate how we're actually moving this technology forward in the industry. And then the continuity is the key point here that I think is being shown over this large scale, 24 kilometers, and we're seeing line to line to line join up with this same stratigraphic position.
You said teams, plural, and I understand there's 3 geological teams just in this specific area. Is that accurate?
That's right. And then we have another team down south on our own ground at Previsto. So there's a lot of people here working. We're going now full time with those teams shifting into the bush, as we'd say in an Australian lingo, but into the jungle, as it were. Every 2 weeks they're on and 1 week off, and they're rotating through. So we're collecting lots of information. We're advancing the permitting towards drilling, collecting lots of environmental information, working hand in hand with the local communities, in which there are 2 specific hamlets that we're working with, and we've got their great support, and that is probably the most important aspect of this project as much as anything. So it's all coming together. The next stages are to trench a lot of these soil samples or pit them, and then start working out the geology in much more detail and and mapping those different strata, the facies, as we call them. The facies are the different types of rocks that form layers within the very detail of what we're mapping, and parts of those layers will be copper bearing, and to really understand the variation and look for the thickest and highest grade parts of this system now that we know it's continuous over such large areas, and also forms in a way that we were hoping in terms of this sediment hosted copper model with a mineralized shale at the top of where an oxidized reduced package interacts.
You are a top 10 landholder in Peru, tenured land. The project and the area we're talking about today is, of course, part of that San Martin Jogmec JV that I referenced earlier, but there is a whole lot of other project and land to explore. How are things coming along elsewhere, Mike?
Well, you said it, Tabalossa's 24-kilometre strike, 3% of our area with Jogmec, which is 800,000 hectares. And then Jogmec ground is only 1/3 of Hannan's total land position in Peru, in granted and applied for mining concessions. So we've got a hell of a lot of ground, one of the top 10 holders, as you've said. We're working successfully down in Previsto with that one team down there, doing a lot of stream sediment sampling and mapping and identifying a mineral system there. Earlier stage than what we've got here in Tabalossos, because it's only been a few months in progress. Attracting a lot of attention in the industry. These are areas that really have been very poorly explored in the past, and I think we're starting to prove that these porphyry centres we see closer to the coast and in the Sierra extend throughout into these eastern areas, and that's pretty groundbreaking in itself, that we can get these porphyries existing so far east. Very similar to Bajo de Alambrera in Argentina, which at the time was thought of impossible to have these porphyry centres or intrusives forming so far inland, and it seems that's what we're doing again down in Previsto.
Excellent work. I know there's a lot left to do in 2021. I know that we are all hoping that in early 2022 is when we actually see the drill bit turning. Is that still the plan?
We're on a path with the DIA, the EIA, or the environmental permitting that we're supposed to, that we need to go through in Peru, and we've had the teams there mapping. We're working with the social side of things. We're collecting all the environmental data. The monitoring is happening now. So yes, it's all on path to the first or second quarter next year. That seems very possible. Exciting times. Anything else to add, Mike? That's it, Gerardo. Very exciting. Two major mineral systems on their way. And to be clear for everybody, there's three major commodities thus far that we're targeting in this land package, right? It's gold, it's silver, and copper. I know we talked silver and copper today, but there's some pretty compelling gold targets, I understand. Well, the porphyries we talked about in Previsto look like they're copper-gold porphyries, and so we've got the two different styles, the sediment-hosted copper-silver in around Tabalossos and Jogmec, and then further south, copper-gold porphyries in our own right. Excellent. Mike, thank you so much for that thorough update. I appreciate it. That's great. Thanks, Gerardo. All right. Be safe out there. You too.